Anything else, Corban, that you want to talk about before we shut this all down? Because it's almost 1:30.
I considered bringing it up at the end, but I felt like it was just off topic. It's an interesting story of first time or how I met Kevin and Josh in person once.
Okay.
Which is back in I think it was let's see, had to be 2008, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there, was the 25th anniversary of Adventures in Odyssey. And they were
Okay.
having a live show in Irving, Texas, which is just a 20-minute drive from Dallas. So
Okay.
we were going to go, and then my dad saw that in our local children's magazine that we get delivered here, they said free admission if you volunteer, to be backstage and stuff. So I
Okay.
got to basically be the voice of Wooten, Jess Harnell. I got to be his assistant almost the whole day, kind of. So I was bringing
Whoa.
him his food and stuff he wanted. But at the second show, I was reassigned to door holder. So, opening the door,
Okay.
welcoming people. And
Huh?
at the time, I didn't know who Kevin or Josh were. But later on, I saw a video on Garrett Vanderberg's channel where he was where he had talked about going here to Dallas with Kevin and Josh for the 25th
Uh-huh.
anniversary. And I don't know which video I saw it in, but I saw it somewhere. I saw myself in the video, and I realized I had greeted Kevin and Garrett and Josh and said, "Welcome to the Adventures in Odyssey 25th anniversary birthday bash. Please come this way and sign the birthday card." I had greeted them, and I didn't know who they were.
That's awesome.
It's interesting how we had crossed paths before we knew who each other were.
So then, did you reach out to them at that point and say, "Hey guys, I greeted you at the event"?
Yeah,
Or
I've only told Josh the story. I don't think Kevin knows it, but the way I started the show notes was Kevin had tweeted a couple of years ago. I think it's 3 years now, 2 or 3 years now. He had tweeted out, "Hey, we're looking for someone to build us the inner circle," but he hadn't called it the inner circle. He just said, "We're building a
okay.
new page. Does anyone here know how to use Weebly?" which is what the website's built on. And I said, "Oh, I know Weebly."
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, Matthew Bird had also replied a couple days later and said, "Hey, I can build you the site too." But Kevin, he had chosen me. So I built the Inner Circle
Yes.
site, and from there, the old show notes guy, which I'm blanking on his name right now.
I want to say it's Austin.
Yes,
Austin is his name.
Austin, that's it. Yeah, he was going off to college or something. I don't remember what the predicament was, but he wasn't able to do as much work as he used to with the show notes.
Mhm.
So I had offered one week. I said, "Hey, the show notes haven't been posted yet." Had told Kevin, I was like, "Hey, the show notes haven't posted yet. Do you want me to do them this week?" And it sort of became a recurring thing, and I ended up like, "You want me to just go full time?" So I took over posting of the episode each week and the show notes, and I've been doing it for I think 2 years, or I know it's been at least 100 episodes.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
It's been since, I know it's at least episode 98.
Yeah.
For sure. That's the state of the Christian film industry, which was released, according to my spreadsheet, on January 28th, 2016. So that would be a little bit over 2 years. 2 years and almost 2 months now.
Wow, it's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, it was about that time that I was starting to listen to the Inner Tube. Because I was in grad school at the time, and I was on J-term break, January break for Christmas, and I had heard one episode of the Inner Tube, and they had made enough references in it that I wanted to go back and listen to more episodes to figure out what they were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up just powering through. I'd skipped around a little bit, but I ended up just powering through and listening to all of the episodes nonstop during the 3-week period, and got caught up. And it was about that time that I got caught up to the active episodes, and then when grad school kicked back in for the semester, I just kept listening to the episodes as they released. But like, so that was about the same time then that you were putting out the show notes, so that then with the new episodes, if there was something I wanted to check out, I could probably find it in the show notes and look at it. And
I started listening around episode 60. I haven't listened to like the first episodes at all, which I probably
really,
should. But
yes, you should. There are definitely some. So the very, very, very early episodes are kind of weird to listen to because it's Josh and Kevin like feeling this out. Like they said they were going to do this podcast and they were super excited for it, but like no one had ever done a podcast like the Inner Tube before with like now what it is with so much energy. Like I don't think that's what they were prepared to do at the beginning. They were just kind of, all right, we got these questions, and hopefully people listen and like us, and
they did
and all
start.
that.
They did start the podcast at the beginning of their friendship, sort of, right? Is that correct?
Shortly after they became friends, and it was like right after Kevin had moved to Tennessee, because he knew him, he had worked with him before when he was still in South Carolina, but he moved to Tennessee, and then shortly after that, they started the podcast. So yeah, it's very much them getting the feel for each other and getting a feel for what they're comfortable with during the podcast. Like at the beginning, they were like the whole point was to be a reference point, to be a podcast for content creators where they can come, they can write in questions, they'll answer the questions, and they'll get them the information they need. And as they went along, they quickly realized, that's great, but at the end of the day, we're the ones producing this content, so let's have fun with it. Let's do it in a way that we're comfortable with. And so, like, I think it's episode 10 is the first they experimented with it not being edited at all, and then it wasn't until closer to episode 35-ish or 25-ish that they just decided we're going to just do no, it's got to be closer to 35, where they decided they were going to do unedited all the time. And so like the early episodes, you'll find a few where Josh and Kevin switch roles, where like this week on the show was done by Kevin instead of Josh.
I got used to Kevin being the main host a lot because I listened to the ceiling fan before I knew what the inner tube was, so I was always used to Kevin being the host, and so I always thought like Josh was the sidekick. But it's sort of swap roles on the inner tube. Josh is like the main host kind of, and Kevin is
yeah, especially you can tell, especially in episode 206, like it's Josh who kind of keeps it somewhat of the structure going, and Kevin is at this point he's just along for the ride, and he's excited to do it, but he doesn't.
It's like this week he said, "I forgot what the intro is." It's like, oh, hello, we're here.
It's like, yeah, it's like Kevin. You did this before. Like, if you, Kevin, I think it's episode. Let's see if I got this right. Episodes 13 and 14 were ones that Kevin hosted by himself. Episode 13 had Josh in it, but it was edited in. It was a clip that they'd cut out from before that he just did as a whole separate episode, but Kevin introduced it on his own. 14 was just Kevin answering. I think it was that one was the one he answered questions from SpeakPipe, which you remember SpeakPipe.
Yeah.
Went on the website when it started that you could submit audio questions directly there.
I've been meaning to put it back on the website because it went missing for some reason. It's supposed to be there, but like I think the code, like our our authentication token or something for it got removed or revoked, and Kevin hasn't like reapplied it or whatever, so it's supposed to be there. And I'll write a reminder right now to see if I can get Kevin to put it back sometime this week.
Sure. I thought it was just that not enough people used it, that they took it down, but that is interesting if it's supposed to be there, because it was recently that I listened to episode 14 again, and it inspired me to write an audio, submit an audio question of my own that I'm sure they've gotten and heard and decided, nah, this isn't really one we want to answer.
Yeah, because they still accept audio questions through email if you just send an audio file.
Yeah, they do. I like when I'm listening to the inner tube, I like it better when it's written questions that Josh reads. But you can also tell that Josh, even though we enjoy hearing him read, he doesn't always want to read. And so having an audio question, like Kevin's an audio guy, Josh really enjoys audio. So if there's an audio question of halfway decent quality, like I think they'd want to put it on the episode more. It just it does require a little bit of extra editing, but I think they'd get more questions with the speak pipe. It was kind of interesting to hear, like in episode 14 when Kevin plays the speak pipe questions, the uncertainty that people had when they were recording. Like they'd hit record on the speak pipe and they're like, oh, okay, here's my question, and oh, it's cutting me off, or oh, I didn't expect this, or whatever. But so if you're like, hey, I want an old episode of the Inner Tube to go back and listen to that had audio questions in it galore, episode 14 is a good one.
All right.
But and the other thing with the early episodes is they're pretty short.
Yeah, I noticed that.
To the newer ones, and they were much more on topic and answering questions in those early episodes. And of course, they were edited, so that's the main reason why they're shorter. And you'll find that a lot of the early episodes have segments called Web Extra. Maybe you've heard of them, or listened to them. But where they take the edited out clips and put some different theme music on it and release it to the website itself. I wish they'd do more of that, just because then it rewards people who actually visit the website. And but they haven't done that since episode 24. There's something they could do.